Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Masonry Strong Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Mark Kemp. Mark, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
Good day out there.
Yeah, it's beautiful out. Is this your first time in Utah?
No, actually, this is the sixth time that we've had it here. Or
Really?
no, I
Really?
mean three times we've
Oh,
had it here.
oh,
Yeah,
gotcha. Wow, nice.
yeah,
I know you guys had it in Park City 2008, 2007, but yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome. Nice. So, how did you get started in the masonry industry?
Uh, Actually, my father was a mason, and so every summer I would work for him.
Okay.
And started out as back then you had a water boy,
Hmm.
so you had little glass jugs that you would fill those up and just pass it to the guys and they would drink. And I mean, it
Yeah.
was pretty raw back then.
How old were
Uh,
you when you were doing that?
God, I was in grade school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and
real early.
yeah, and then I in my spare time I'd pick up the job
Mhm.
site, and keep it clean and stuff like that. But yeah, I started at 6 cents an hour.
Wow.
Yeah,
When did you finally start laying brick and getting on the job sites instead of moving up from the water
I
boy?
never took an apprenticeship. I just kind of moved up through the
Wow.
ranks, laboring and stuff like that. And then every once in a while, I would pick up a trowel and I could lay block,
Mhm.
brick, not as good as the other people,
Mhm.
but good enough that I knew the technique and what they needed to be
Mhm.
successful. And then probably when I was I did that through grade school or through high school.
Mhm.
And then when I went to college, towards the beginning of my college, I was washing brick. And back then, they came out with a high pressure wash machine that would spray the chemical on you. You could spray it off. And I said, wow, this is a lot better than hand washing because that's what I was doing before.
Yeah.
So I bought one of those and then started Badger brick washers.
Wow.
Uh, and kind of that's how I paid my way through college.
Mm.
I washed brick, and it worked out well because I would work Saturdays, Sundays. Because when you're a brick washer, everybody hates you because nobody wants acid sprayed on them,
Yeah.
So, and it taught me a lot, basically how to run a business
Mhm.
because it was a small business, myself, maybe two employees. But you had to make the payroll, you had to collect the receivables. So it actually taught me more than what I would have learned, what I learned in college through
Mhm.
business, because it was practical hands-on.
Yeah.
And then after I got out of college, okay, Superior was looking for somebody, so
Mhm.
I went back to Superior and worked for them. And then I had my degree in business and real estate and urban development. And Bill Denninger, who actually was part of
Yeah.
Superior Masonry, uh, was leaving, and so then I came in and replaced him as secretary treasurer of
Mhm.
Superior Masonry. And I don't know, you want me to keep going on on this?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, okay. So then from there, I started buying. There was four partners, and I ended up buying out all the partners. And I took over control. I was running the office. I took over the field, and kind of started out smaller and then started building it up. Then I hired a masonry superintendent and then eventually a concrete superintendent. Then I could spend more time in the
Yeah.
office doing what I was supposed to
Yeah.
be doing. So now my son's in the business
Nice.
and I have passed it over to him and he's doing a phenomenal job.
Awesome. And when did you get started with, when did you get involved with the MCAA?
I heard you talking to Buddy on that and I was trying to remember, but God, I'm trying, if I said 30 years, 20
Okay.
years. It's a long time
Yeah.
because I was a regional VP for a long
Yeah.
time. And then I moved up into an officer.
Yeah. And then when did you become chairman?
I don't remember that. I was right after John Smith. I became chairman, and it was a tough time for
Okay.
MCA. I remember it was I can't remember if it was at a mid-year or the convention, but we made a commitment to BIM, to contribute $500,000 as one of the four principal people involved.
Yeah.
And I'm just stepping in as chairman, and I'm looking at Jeff, I said, Jeff, we don't have, $50,000 to spare, So that's what started the Masonry Foundation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So we used that as a stepping stone to create the Masonry Foundation so that we could raise money to pay for that, and plus eventually do the stuff that we're doing, giving grants out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And your cousin Dick is actually the current chairman.
Yeah. Just a little background on that. His father, Bill Denninger, he's actually my first cousin, Bill Denninger.
Oh, wow.
And he came to my office with, back then, Mike Adelizi, and said, hey, Mark, we have this opportunity. I think it'd be a great opportunity if you want to become a regional VP. And at the time, I was like, I don't know if I can make that time commitment. So I thought about it, and I said yes. And so that's how I became really involved with the MCA. And that was also part of the deal when I wanted Bill Sr. to get in the Hall of Fame, because he was chairman during a very, very tough time with MCA, because we were strictly union.
Okay.
And there was this big debate that we had become an industry-wide organization, meaning union and non-union.
Yeah.
And he was able to bring both sides together and get that accomplished. And that was not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
So then, after I was chairman, then when you're done with chairman, you start lining up who's going to be next or whatever, And so I talked to Dick, and I said, Dick, I think it's time, you should consider it. And he's like, I don't know if this is the right time and everything. I said, well, think on it, And then called me back. He says, I'm going to do it. Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah, so he's a second generation.
Yeah,
Denninger.
I was just talking about it. Yeah,
right.
That's awesome.
So it's very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Outside of the masonry industry, what do you like to do on your free time?
I'm big in martial arts.
Yes.
Yeah. I still do. I teach 3 classes a week.
Wow.
And I did a lot, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, training police departments.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we had a program in Chicago where we would have train the trainers. So you would have sheriff departments, people that were responsible for training their fellow officers. And we had FBI, we had the airport people there. I mean, anybody was there. Yeah. And I was privileged to work with Dave Young, who is U.S. Fighting System and Amara Training Systems. And so I was kind of like his sidekick and would help with this training. And it was a very humbling experience, because you realized some of these people were really undertrained. Yeah. And you realize the situations that they're put in, as far as, they couldn't do this. Yeah. We had to go to this thinking man pose because this was considered aggressive.
Really?
Yeah. So then we went to this, we started training them to do this so that you could easily block strike, if you had to defend yourself. Yeah. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then, like I said, martial arts was my passion, and I'm a 6-degree black belt. I've got a couple of years under my belt with jiu-jitsu, and I do Krav. So that's pretty much the extent of it.
Awesome. And do you compete in competition?
I no longer compete. No, I have to judge a lot, because of my rank. So, but yeah, I haven't. I think it was 2 years ago was the last time I tested, and I wouldn't be eligible to test for another 4 years. So I'm kind of like, I'm getting old. Getting old.
Did you start martial arts as a kid, or was it later on in life?
Did I what?
Did you start martial arts as a kid?
No. I started, I want to say my 40s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just something that you saw the old Kung Fu things, and I was like, I think I might be interested in that. And one day I checked out a couple places and decided, I'm going to give it a shot.
Awesome. Well, I'll be sticking next to you if there's any ever commotion going on. Back to the MCAA, having been in it for as long as you have and having been chairman, what is it like seeing it grow to what it is today?
It's phenomenal. It's like seeing your kid grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, you take such pride in it. To see not only I think we're at 1,000 or more members now.
Yeah.
And I want to say we were 400 or something, back in the day.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a tremendous growth, and we had a change. We had Mike Adelisi, who we that was right when I was coming in too. We had to let him go, and it was an ugly divorce.
Okay.
And we brought on Jeff, and as long as I'm talking about Jeff and he's not here, I mean, you talk about a cheap guy. Man, that guy is cheap. But that's why we love him, because we needed somebody that would tighten the reins and watch the money.
Yeah.
And Jeff is really, really good at that. And he's personable and had a good idea how to grow, So I have a lot of respect for Jeff. Don't tell him that.
I'll tell him you call him chief. And as far as from like a advancement aspect, seeing it because it was superior. What is it like seeing the industry grow for like with advancements, whether it be technology or innovation, stuff like that, and implementing them into like superior masonry?
Well, as far as the industry, I think the industry has shrunk.
As in, like,
masonry is no longer the dominant industry.
Okay.
You have wood, and wood, had their checkoff program, and it was hard for us to try to compete against wood when we couldn't sell the benefits of masonry, being fire resistant, the strength of masonry. And so that's why this checkoff program was huge for the masonry industry. So now the goal has to be try to gain back that market share and get on the code committees so that we can tell them the product we have, and make sure that buildings are built with public safety in mind.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic. I think that masonry is going to get stronger now. It's going to gain in market share, and it's just I mean, you come to these events, and I was in the hot tub the other day, and the guy comes walking in with his wife. I looked at him. I said, "You're a contractor." He looked at me. He says, "How'd you know?" I said, "I can tell. I can tell. You can always tell contractors. I mean, they have that lower key personality. At least most of them.
Oh, absolutely.
They're very friendly and hardworking. A lot of them family oriented. So, but yeah, it's a great industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said your son is now a part of Superior?
Yeah, I officially have transferred the ownership to him 100%. It's in a trust, but he has really taken it to the next level, so to speak.
That's awesome. And was that always in his plans, or was it something that he just kind of found?
I never encouraged it, only because it's a tough career.
For sure.
And then he graduated in finance. And I said, "So what are you going to do now?" He says, "Well, I want to work for you." And I was like, "Really?" I says, "Better think about that." He says, "No, I do." So he came to work, and I was blessed at that time. I had a guy older than me, but a good teacher, because I thought it'd be better if he worked under him rather than me.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I never thought my son would get up in the morning, but he was there at like 6:30 in the morning making coffee for Don, his mentor, and just really became very good friends with him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it works. It doesn't always work out that way in a family succession. So
that's awesome.
We're blessed.
How do you feel about the future of the masonry industry?
Like I said, I'm optimistic with the checkoff program. I think that's going to increase the market share. I mean, now the big push is workforce development. It doesn't do any good if we increase the market share and we can't do the work. So, that is our main focus, and it's the right direction to go.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I think it's definitely going to increase.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Mark, as we wrap up here, I'll finish off by asking you, what does Masonry Strong mean to you?
Masonry strong to me, that's a tough one. To me, it's a product, okay, that is durable. Okay, it's public safety, and it's an industry of hardworking individuals who all work together to try to make the industry better.
Mhm.
That's pretty much it for
Yeah,
me.
it's awesome. Well, Mark, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it. I had a good time, and we will see you guys next time.